And I started to form this idea in my head of, maybe in a way of like unknowingly weaning the population off of actual meats, where like say for example, if because I'm not entirely sure if bioprinters are all the way there in terms of, I don't know, being able to print a steak or something. I mean, do you think they're there yet, or do you think there's still a little way to go?
I know they've done it already. I attended earlier this year. I went to the GFIA, the inaugural GFIA conference in Abu Dhabi, some innovations in agriculture. I can't remember what the GF stands for. Anyway, Global Foundation for Innovations in Agriculture. It's co-sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and a bunch of other stuff. It was a pretty high-end conference in Abu Dhabi. And one of the speakers is one of the research scientists on synthetic meat, and they absolutely produced a hamburger and fed it to people, and they could not tell the difference. They had
really?
Yeah, one on one side,
Wow.
one on one side, one on the other, and they could not tell the difference. Now, he said it was expensive. It was an expensive hamburger because they haven't got the economy of scale to drop the cost down. But for research purposes, they were definitely able to create synthetic meat that tasted just fine. And so,
Wow.
yes, they are there. Now, it's just about getting it to a point to where it's, cost effective, right? What's that word? Cost
Yeah.
effective. So they've got to get it down to where it plays within this psychotic bullshit economic system that we're stuck in. But
Yeah.
the ability is definitely there. And people can research it too.
Okay.
They can look up synthetic meat. There's plenty of papers on it. The research is still ongoing. They're trying to make it better, and do diverse kinds of meat and get diverse kinds of flavors, because you've got stuff from, venison and deer and rabbit and all Hass and Pfeffer and all that other stuff, right? So different kinds of meats that could be synthetically produced that have those flavors that people can appreciate, and then you don't have to kill another animal for the rest of human existence. All right, fine. I mean, look, Star Trek, right? Replicators create everything out of molecules from nothing, right? Just boop, and boom, you've got... So they're not killing any animals to have their steak, but they're still getting the flavor they enjoy and the nutrients they want, or the nutrients they need to satisfy their palate. That's where I think, is the most reasonable move. And they're already doing it with the synthetic meat, with the 3D printing of meat, kind of layering those proteins down in a way to where you develop this thing. But yeah, they've done it. They've already done it. It's just now getting it to the scale and getting it tested and all these other stuff. But they've definitely done it.
All right. So I guess in that sense, it probably gives even more credence to my idea, because basically I had the idea of, either finding some way of infiltrating the production systems of meat production plants or whatever, and just slowly infiltrating it with synthetic meats, or either infiltrating on the production process, or in the management of it, where some sort of deal could be made where we basically say, okay, well, we can cut down your production costs, and you won't have to slaughter any, you will have to slaughter less and less and less and less and less and less animals until basically we can provide you with all the stuff that you normally produce, except you won't have to kill those animals. And I think if we gradually sort of over a course of maybe 10 or so years, sort of gradually just replace all the foods with that, and then once we know that it's all the meats that society is eating is 100% ethical in that sense, we then maybe put out some sort of survey as to something along the lines of how do you feel about eating meats, and do you like the taste of your meat and all that sort of stuff. And if people will be like, yeah, see, I mean, some people they find whatever rationalizations they do to knowingly eat the meat products that they do, and ignore the slaughter that goes on. And for those that are aware of the slaughter, they know that they're at least trying to cut down. And then after we got all these positive results, and people are not aware at all, we basically say, oh, by the way, you haven't been eating real meats for the last 10 years, and you're still fine. How's about that? I mean, at that point, do you think anyone would actually say, do you know what? No, screw that. I want you to start killing a cow for me. Do you think anyone would do that?
Well, I don't know how you would pull that off, though, because you're talking about food that would have to be managed and regulated, and people have to be told what they're eating or whatever. I mean, I don't know legally how you would be able to pull that off, like a bait and switch or shell game of eat meat, nope, fake meat. I like it now. It's I mean, that's kind of funny thinking about it that way. I kind of get people to start eating it without even knowing that it's synthetic meat, and then spring it on them later. But you'd also probably piss a lot of people off that way too, because they think they've been lied to. Some government conspiracy. What are you putting in my meat? And all that stuff. So,
that's right.
That's going to happen. I just think, in a way, I agree, but I think it should be transparent. I think, you're going to have companies that are going to spring up. They're going to be like, look, we are a synthetic meat provider. We can give you all your hamburger. Our carbon footprint is 500 times less than growing a cow. We don't need all the grain. We don't use this. We don't use that, because the carbon footprint for cattle livestock ranching is stupid high, because it's just too intensive. Again, that goes back to too much meat. The world does too much meat. If we drastically reduced it, we'd be far better off. Some people want to go too far and say eliminate it, but I say this way: there are hundreds of millions of animals farting on this planet. So why is it just cows that are given the bad rap? Are you saying that donkeys don't fart? Are you saying that lions in the wilderness don't fart? Are you saying that all these other mammals, all these other animals out there aren't also passing gas? I mean, if we got rid of the livestock cattle alone, would that be enough? I know it is a problem, and I completely agree that it is, but it's like you're ignoring all the other animals on the planet that eat, sleep, burp, fart, and shit too. It's like, they are also contributing in their natural habitats. So, did we have this problem when the world was overrun with many more animals? I mean, we've got entire animals that are extinct, right? Bison. And I think it's bison. Shit, somebody's going to correct me on that, but that's fine. We know the ones that we've kind of done a good job of exterminating. But there used to be thousands of them roaming on the prairies. Well, what was their carbon footprint? Because I bet your ass that they were probably as bad or worse than cows. It just so happens that we've centralized the production of them a lot, and we also overdo it. Again, too much cow, chicken, and pig, and not enough diversity. And so you're still going to have emissions from animals, regardless of whether you're eating them or not. If you decided not to eat any other animal and let them reproduce and do their own thing, you're going to have massive explosions in animal population, which is great, which also means you're going to have massive explosions in the gas produced by those animals as well. So are you counting that too, or that to simply suit your argument? Because they're going to still be creating gas as well. So you got to look at it in a more reasonable frame. But anyway, synthetic meat, I think, will, when it's shown that it is cleaner, greener, just as healthy, and tastes just as good, will absolutely supplant and destroy the agriculture industry. Because there's more to it. A synthetic meat product, there's more to it than just it's meat and tastes good. When you add to it all the environmental bonuses to it that you're passing on and saying, by buying this kind of meat versus that kind of meat, you're helping the entire planet in a significant way. That can mean stuff to people, especially if it's not forced on them, but it is gradually, like you said, over 10 years, 20 years, implemented. It can have an effect. I don't think it needs to be underhanded. I think it could be right in their face. This is synthetic meat. and it's 500 times better than what you're eating now, and it's cleaner, and it doesn't pollute, and you don't have to slaughter animals, and you don't have to do this and that, and it tastes fine. It gives you all the nutrients you need. Have a burger. Okay, sounds good to me. As long as it doesn't cost $500 a pound, because the economics of it will have an implication. If they cannot get the cost of synthetic meat down to compete with or be better than current livestock, traditional livestock agriculture, then it will never succeed. Because in this world, you know what it all comes down to. It all comes down to the money bit. But if they can get it down to a proper cost point, people will do it.
Yeah. I mean, I myself, I'm eagerly awaiting the day when synthetic meat can actually start being available in supermarkets, because I want to know what I myself, I've followed a vegetarian diet for I think the last 3, maybe 4 years. And but even I admit that whenever it's like sunny out and someone's got a barbecue, I like the smell of a barbecue. I mean, I absolutely adore the smell of bacon. But it's just the sort of thing where I'm thinking, hey, hurry up the synthetic meats. I want to know what I want to remember what I'm actually missing out on. Without all the necessity of slaughter and all that stuff. So I mean, I myself, I would. Put my hand up and say, yes, I'll give it a try, Yeah,
absolutely. I would too. Like I said, I would never advocate another animal being eaten on this planet for the rest of human existence the moment we come up with synthetic meat varieties that do the job. I'm cool with that, as long as there's something else, because I don't think it's realistic to assert that the whole planet should become vegetarian, but I do think it's much more realistic to come up with an alternative to meat that does the job.
Yeah. So, tell you what, one of the things that I've been wondering about lately, and this is the perfect opportunity to ask. I noticed that that zeitnews.org is no longer up. Are you able to comment on what happened with that?
Well, that comes back down to money, and it's been an issue for quite some time. I'm not really that directly involved with Zeit News. I haven't been for quite some time. The guys were doing a great job of running it, without me, even though I kind of quasi started it sort of with the tech team way back in the day. It costs money to manage a website that has that much volume. It costs money to deal with those things and to run it and to get the articles submitted and checked so to make sure that they're good and legitimate. There's a staffing requirement for that. And it really just comes down to the fact that you can only volunteer so often, so long, before real life crops up and kind of changes your direction of what you have to focus on. And Zeit News couldn't do advertising because we were an aggregate, and being an aggregate means you're pulling news articles from other sources, and you can't make money on somebody else's work. There's the copyright thing. So pulling an article from Popular Science that's cool is one thing. Pulling that article to your website and then having advertising where you make money off of their article is completely different. And so you can't generate revenue that way, and there's a lot of loopholes, or a lot of. It just came down to they ran out of money. It's just not enough funding, not enough donations, not enough help. And this is one of the things that pisses me off about the Zeitgeist movement. It's one of the reasons why I'm not that involved anymore. Is you got, and I'll be very, very bold with this statement. A lot of people do a lot of talking, and they're significantly naive to the fact that we still live in a money world and we need money to get shit done. And there's no way we're all going to just abandon money and go live hippy-dippy in the middle of the forest like a bunch of goddamn fairies and nymphs. This isn't fantasy land.
Like Forest Boy.
This isn't fantasy land, all right? The vast majority of people have families and kids and support structures, and they are unfortunately addicted to the system because it's the only support mechanism that we have. And things cost money. It costs money to get things done. So put up or shut up. At some point, people need to start donating a couple of bucks here and a couple of bucks there to the things that they enjoy, that they want to support. And, everybody's like, and you're not the only one that's asked me about Zeit News. Although I haven't been involved for a while, I knew this was coming because we kept running into it. I personally dropped $500 towards Zeit News to help them run for a couple of months. This was a little over a year ago. And, that helped, but they just couldn't get any additional support. We couldn't formally do a crowdfunding campaign or anything like that because, again, you can't solicit donations or sell products off of an aggregate news. So we were just trying to get support through word of mouth, and they just couldn't get any. And it's very disappointing. So you've got all these people, what happened to Zeit News? Well, what happened to your $2? If everybody would have just submitted $2 or $3, the damn website would probably still be up and doing what it's supposed to do. But it costs money to run this stuff. And even if it doesn't cost a lot, it still costs. There's something to it. So that became a problem, and that's kind of what happened to Zeit News. And I know it's been offline for a couple of months now. Actually, some people are just now noticing or commenting on it, but it's been down for a while. I don't know if or when it'll ever come back. Which is disappointing because it was a really cool website to find current. I mean,
oh yeah.
If our technical reality is something that you share, I always shared Zeit News because Zeit News was more relevant. It was more up to date than our technical reality. Even our technical reality is old.
If you 4 years old now.
Yeah, if you can look at what we do now, this is what we're doing 4 years ago when I put that together. I mean, we're much better now. So, it's just. It was an amazing resource that had little to no support to keep it running. And it is what it is. People need to really start thinking about the pragmatic reality of the world that we live in. And that if we're going to get things done, it's going to need financial support to get things done. As much as we hate money and all that stuff, that is what it is. Or else we're just going to do a whole lot of internet talking and get nowhere.
Exactly. Because that's the thing. I mean, because I noticed maybe like a couple of months. I think it was like maybe a month and a half, about 2 months ago, that the site was down, and it was just at the point when I was like in the middle of a discussion with a couple of my cousins, and I was going to be like recommending some stuff because I was thinking to myself, right, well, I'll go on to Zeit News, go on to like the relevant topic and just like share them some art, because every single time I went on Zeit News, like there would not be one time when I would go onto that site and where my mind would not be completely and utterly blown, because just some of the stuff. I mean, it even got to the point where some of the stuff was even scary because technology just gets so. Is like the actual state of technology that we have now is so far beyond what we generally perceive it to be that it becomes almost scary at points. I mean, do you find sometimes that sometimes you're like, whoa, really? Is that really possible? Do you have moments like that?
Occasionally, sometimes I'm rather amazed by some of the levels of research that are going on. And you're right, some of it can be scary if it's used inappropriately, but some of it can be amazing. It's interesting. Sometimes I'm wowed by the stuff that's coming down the pike. I know the one thing that Zeit News has that's still running is the Zeit News Facebook page. That's still up and running. The most recent post is November 27th, so it's not too long ago. So I guess in lieu of the website, the next best thing is to just use Facebook, because then it doesn't cost anything. And we've always had the Facebook page, so people can always go to Zeit News on Facebook and look at it that way. I mean, it doesn't have the cool user interface of a custom Zeit News website, but it also doesn't cost anything to run a Zeit News aggregate on Facebook. So now it's just up to people posting, the hosts of the site posting stuff there, and that's easier to do. So people can always just go to the Zeit News page on Facebook. You just have to be on Facebook to do it. That does limit your audience, because being an independent website means anybody from anywhere can get to it. being on Facebook, you have to be on Facebook. So
Yeah.
that's the only limitation.
No. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I guess one of the things we'll sort of start to wrap up the podcast with is, I mean, what sort of things besides CFS? What sort of things do you get up to now? What's going on in the world of Doug Mallette?
Well, the something I can talk about a little bit, although I can't go into super details about, is remember a couple of months ago, there was a guy in Virginia who ended up claiming a plot of land in Africa that was owned by nobody. Do you remember that?
It rings a vague bell.
Well, his daughter asked if she could be a princess, and
oh yes, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
His daughter asked if she could be a princess, and she's 6. So he was like, "Well, I could squash her dreams, or I could do some research and see if it's possible. I mean, who knows? There might be a plot of land on this earth that nobody's claimed." And I can just go and go, boop, I claim this in the name of me, king, and now you're my princess. You know, kind of a fun little thing to do that would really have no serious meaning, but something to make his daughter kind of like, aha, cool, you know, and move on with her life. I mean, just to show that if you do the research and you work hard and you try to find a solution, maybe you can find it. So he was like, sure, let's see if we can make you a princess. So he did the research. And after a lot of research, he actually was able to find a small chunk of land in Africa that's between the border of Sudan and Egypt called the Bir Tawil region that after colonial times, when they were starting to draw the dotted lines on the map, one dotted line went this way and the other dotted line went that way, and somehow there was this plot of land that was claimed by neither side. Neither side wanted it. It's desert in the middle of nowhere. It's what Las Vegas was before Las Vegas was there. You know, it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, desert, right? Just arid, nothing. Nobody lives there. It's nothing major, but it wasn't owned by international law or anything else. So he went, okay. He went there, managed to have the family make up a flag, and there's a whole thing about it, actually, and he planted a flag and claimed the and now, by international law, has legally gone through the process of claiming this little 800 square mile chunk of dead real estate that nobody owns. Now, of course, a lot of people are like, oh, see, white guy going to Africa and colonizing another piece of land. Okay. First of all, that's stupid. Nobody lives there. He's not subjugating. Nobody wants to live there. It's like going to Mars and, you know, I claim this in the name of Earth or whatever. You know, it's like there's nothing there to subjugate. So it's not. There's no real negative. He's not hurting or harming anybody. But he then asked his daughter, "What do you want to do with? Okay, we've got it. What do you want to do with it?" And she goes, "Well, I want to turn it into a big farm." Because I learned in school that Africa has a lot of problems with feeding their people, and I think it would be nice if the whole country was a big farm and fed everybody. Now, from a 6-year-old perspective, or actually she was 7 because it was on her 7-year-old birthday, she was 7 years old, and she said this, and, you know, out of the mouth of a child comes this idea, and Jeremiah, his name is Jeremiah Heaton, Jeremiah his stuff made the news, and I went to his website and saw what he was trying to do, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then I had a bunch of people say, hey, Douglas, you should contact this guy and talk to him about CFS and see what you can do. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Okay, what's it going to hurt? So I sent him a Facebook message, and I basically said, the odds of you responding are probably 0. I don't even know if you're going to get this, but here's who I am, and here's what I'm doing, and here's the potential. And if you're serious about this and want to do something amazing, if you have the connections, then now let's see what we can do. Right. He got back to me a couple of weeks later and said, that's amazing. I want you on my staff.
Wow.
So, of course, the staff right now is me and him. Well, at the time was me and him. Well, just recently, his story got picked up by a well-known film documentarian. I can't remember his name now off the top of my head. Crap, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is, Walt Disney, picked up the rights, the story. They're going to make a movie out of his story.
Wow.
All right. So, because the whole princess angle, right? Because Disney's all about the princesses and stuff. So they're gonna make a story out of it, right? Well, he's leveraged that to try and do other amazing things, and I'm kind of involved with that. That's about as far as I can go with it right now on describing what's going on with that. But it's I can give you the website. It's the Kingdom of North Sudan was the name of it. But if you go to kingdomsudan.org, you will see the website, and it's a nation founded on science. The creed of the nation is a nation built on science, and its 4 pillars of development are food security, energy efficiency, digital freedom, and financial freedom. And basically what he wants to do is turn this desolate wasteland into an agricultural research hub for the entire continent of Africa, leveraging all the best scientific minds in the world to come to a place that doesn't have a lot of the restrictions that current established nations have when it comes to research and development and scientific progress, because we all know there's different hamstringing aspects of the old world that kind of hold science back a little bit. And by building a nation from scratch, you're able to also write your own laws and set yourself up to be pro-science, pro-research to the nth degree. And that's basically what North Sudan is going to be. It's going to be a big international research center for energy, food security, internet communications, things like that. And I'm involved with that to a certain extent. And so that's another project I'm having. And it's not just, it's on behalf of CFS a little bit, I guess, but also for other aspects. So we'll see everything there. But that's an project that I ended up kind of backing into with just random email to him and a few conversations and discussions later. It's now we're moving forward on different things to kind of make some serious stuff happen with this region, to kind of turn this desolate wasteland into a prosperous, amazing, helpful entity for all of mankind, really.
All right. Well, that's interesting. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do with just one email and certain connections, and when interests align, and you get people who actually do care about this sort of thing. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that this sort of thing was the brainchild, as it were, of a child, because children, I think, are far more susceptible to the ideas of positivity and sustainability and all that sort of stuff, because they're not as indoctrinated into the system as we adults are.
Agreed.
Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, I said agreed. I completely agree.
So, I mean, I guess one thing that we could touch on, one thing we were talking about while we're off the air, is you actually work as a taxi driver now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, would you say that there's been some notable conversations you've had with passengers?
Oh, sometimes. It depends. A lot of the drives are short. We've moved up to Rhode Island from Florida because my wife wants to go to college for a pastry chef. The only catch with that is there's almost zero employment opportunities for what I am educated in, for space industry stuff in this area. What they have around here is a lot of software development, so software engineering work, which I am not. It's not what I do. And it's almost all related around military submarine warfare stuff, because the naval base here and the Naval War College, and there's a lot of military installation stuff and Raytheon and whatnot is in this area. And I don't have any experience with submarine warfare stuff. So it's kind of difficult to find any employment for what I do. Employment is very much geographically specific. There are certain